Chapter 8, Take a Cop, 1989. The next 2 weeks after my release, I never left the house or spoke to anyone. I turned off my beeper and put away the Atari 5200. My idea of life was failing. Fun wasn't fun anymore. Handling the burdens of hustling became a burden in itself. The constant hassles for attention made my girlfriend a hassle. My introversion became my peace. A week later, my lawyer came with an offer to plead guilty to reduced charges. And since it would be my first conviction, plus a plea bargain, and I was still a juvenile, I would most likely get anything from probation to 3 years in a youth center at the notorious Lawton prison, which was in Virginia. He convinced us that the government had an off-duty cop as an eyewitness, and discrediting him would be a hurdle. That's how the cops chased me so quick after the shootings. He was following me in an unmarked car. My parents felt it sounded good, as opposed to me serving 30 years. I was understandably hesitant, but then I agreed to it. Maybe I needed 2 years away to get my mind in order. I wasn't enjoying life like most teenagers, and I was always angry. My anger controlled my every movement, and the gun was my release. I was shooting at or shooting someone every day, sometimes just for making eye contact. I pulled my gun on girls if she ignored my advances. I shot at cops from rooftops as practice. Fuck it, I told my parents. Let's do it. I took off my Gucci sneakers and sweatsuit, my Gucci Lincoln bracelet, and passed it to my brother. I emptied my pockets and put the contents into one of my shoe boxes filled with cash and passed it to him also. I'll be back. On my way to the courthouse, I just stared out of the rolled up windows at the bare trees and abandoned buildings. I had no money in my pockets, no jewelry, no beeper, no pistol. I was just a normal teenager in the back seat of my parents' station wagon, heading towards the unknown. We rode in silence, with each holding different thoughts of my future. It felt suffocating, and I felt a tinge of hostility. I wished we could make a U-turn and go home, but we couldn't. I was going back to the juvenile block again. I was going back to the psych home. My lawyer had convinced us that we were blessed to be in front of a judge who was known to be lenient towards juveniles. When the quarter changes, judges rotate and are assigned to different cases. I may not be as lucky if my case is assigned to another judge. So the decision to plea or not to plea had a fast approaching deadline. I walked into the extremely quiet, dimly lit courtroom to a smiling lawyer whispering sweet nothings, while I watched the evil-looking white man in the robe looking over his beak like a predator stalking his prey. As my lawyer began to speak, I could see in the judge's eyes that he was looking for a kill. But I questioned my assumptions because of the trust of a lawyer. I took the plea. I immediately knew it was a bad move. Taking a plea should always be the last resort, not the first. And taking the first plea offer from the government is a no-no. But it was all a sound good and feel good moment that allowed us to plan for a not too far in the distant future and put a past full of mistakes behind us. A past full of unchanneled violence and hostility, fleeting happiness, and the ever so slow movement towards introversion. But with everyone being naive to the so-called justice system, mannerisms, and lingo, we believed the slick-tongued lawyer. Our investigators should have found out that the reason the cop was around that area at the time of the shooting was because he was a user. He could have easily been discredited, therefore destroying the case. The victims were also in hiding along with the witnesses. They had no credible testimony. We were all lost bangers banging over debt and turf that we didn't own. This brought me to the realization that, 1. When dealing with the judicial system, you have to buckle down and do your own research. No one knows your case better than you, so sacrifices has to be made for you to remain free. 2. Lawyers are sometimes overworked or may have overlooked a crucial element in a case that could get you acquitted. Sometimes it's up to you to find these key elements. After all, it's your freedom at stake. 3. I could have fought this case and won. Easily. I was immediately detained and sent back to the juvenile block at DC jail again to await sentence. A young child caught up in a whirlwind of confusion, a tornado of torn up brain cells and emotions. Consciously, I didn't mind being confined, but subconsciously I hated jail and always wanted to escape it. But I wondered, did I take the plea to escape society? Nevertheless, that would be my first and last time in life that I would ever plead guilty to anything.